Hi, everyone. And today, the question is, how effectively are you leading employees and contractors today? Now, we know in 2021, there's a lot of budgets that are going around and trying to figure out how to maximize the current workforce. Some people may or may not be hiring more employees, but they do need still help because they have a lot to do to work on this year, right? There's a lot of rethinking of how we innovate, rethinking about how we approach with people. And so we may need a bigger workforce. So this is a huge dilemma that Roxana and I thought would be great to talk about. And this, we can probably go in different avenues. We really wanted to focus on is if I am a resource manager, and I'm bringing on, I have employees, or I have a hybrid of employees and contractors, or I have all contractors, right? Let's look at every variation that's out there. How do I enable myself to effectively use some of the things that we use in performance reviews, but we know that we have HR limitations, and also personal development and growth, because we know when it comes to getting results, we can't ignore those things in individuals.
Yeah. We can't ignore them. And because, again, people challenges, they're always going to be business challenges as well. Right. I mean, there's no other way, and especially now. I mean, come on, if people are not motivated, they're not engaged, if they don't understand what the purpose is, if they don't understand where they're going and what's required from them, if they don't get that feeling of, yeah, okay, let's do this, and we do this together, and we go towards an end result, then what's going to be your result as a business? How much time and how much money are you going to invest in something that doesn't work, as opposed to doing something about it so that it actually works?
So I like where you're going with this. So let's take it in a couple of different approaches. So all the different people of how they think, we might hit those. So there's a lot of people that think a lot in an ROI, right? What's my return on investment when it comes to working with employees and contractors? So a lot of times we have figured out that answer when it comes to employees, right? We put a lot of energy and manpower behind that in HR. Well, what we tend to not do, and sometimes there's legal reasons for it, is we don't put enough strategy and thinking about it when we have a contractual workforce. So we heavily rely on vendors. We bring in either, recruiting firms that are bringing staff augmentation. So either model that you have where they're a little bit more arm's distance, or they're just staff aug and they're kind of quasi part of your company, but they don't follow the same HR policies, because if you did, you would have to turn them into an employee. This was a very interesting thing. But here's the thing. If we don't start rethinking about this, what is the impact on the return on investment? Because a lot of people spend a lot of money when it comes to contractors. A lot of money. And here's the things that could impact your return on investment is you invest in bringing these people in, and the knowledge leaves with them out the door when that contract ends. That's one thing for you guys to think about. What's the loss in that? Is the reward higher than the risk of you losing money, right? So I read for Tim Ferriss, right? I was reading, I love his book, Tool of Titans. Any of you that have not read it, I highly encourage you, because it hits so many aspects. And so I was reading the section on wealth. He has 3 categories, right? And the wealth category, he talked about investment. And the biggest people out there, right, the most successful investors are always thinking about how much are they going to lose, right? They don't want to lose their money. They don't want to lose their investment. Right? Is it worth the risk, right? Because they want to have reward. They want to make sure that they're actually getting their money back. And I'm probably not saying this the best way, but this is me trying to roll with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to start thinking about the people strategies around this, because we're doing great things with employees and trying to figure that out. How can we balance that? What makes it why we have to think of it differently? What is stopping us from focusing on how to be a better people leader to everyone, even if we have constraints with HR policies? So, for example, performance reviews.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you have a performance review, if you name it that way and you function that way, they are considered an employee, from what I learned in the United States from conversations with people in HR. So what if, game changer hat on here, right? What if we actually changed it to performance feedback? There's nothing in an HR policy and rule for you to actually create a system for everyone, right? You don't want to create two different systems, because that makes no sense. It money-wise, that doesn't make sense on your return on investment. Is why don't you create a feedback system that everyone can participate?
Well, and that's the thing, right? We get stuck, I think, at this point, and we've seen it so many times. I've seen it so many times as well. It's like we get stuck into the systems, into what we already have, and we figure out excuses of why we can't come in with something new. We can't put anything new in place because the system doesn't allow it. But guess what? The system was created by, somebody created the system, right? The system didn't create itself.
Changed and broken.
I mean, the system is there. Exactly, right? The system is there to serve the needs. And if the needs are different, then the system needs to change. It's like, that's how it goes. That's how it's always been. And from, think about it. We didn't have, initially, when people started to work, they didn't have a performance review system in place. There was no talk about that at the beginnings of it, right? And then we figured out, hey, we need to have the system where we let people know what they do well, where they need improvement, and somehow that got connected with promotions and with moving up the ladder. And that's where I think things started to crumble a little bit, because if you link feedback to promotion and that one-time performance review, you link that one. Exactly. That's not going to be sustainable long-term, because that doesn't help me with development at all. If you just tell me once a year what I'm good at and what I need to improve, what helps me is to have exactly what you said, feedback, right? And more regular kind of feedback. And that allows you to give feedback to employees, contractors, whoever it is. And it's a regular thing that you do, and it's more convenient for everybody because it's going to be more specific. And I know how to work with that. I know what you mean.
So we're going to even peel this onion even further, because where we're going with this is all around the theme of personal development.
Yeah.
And if we start to think of personal development as an expectation, not an added benefit of an option for you as an employee, where you build a culture and an expectation, no matter who comes through your door, we want to work with people that actually want to improve themselves. And here's why. Because if you have someone that has a growth mindset and a learner, and they want to improve themselves, you're better off with your return on investment, because you're going to have a group of people that are going to learn how to experiment, how to innovate, how to better do a lot of things in so many ways. And personal development is not an outside thing only. And this is where I challenge me, being a mindset and success coach, where I always said life coaching should be in every organization, in an education, because it's like this. I think I'm going to have like a model. Where if I probably ask most of you out there today, and this is a question, comment, give me your opinions, because I would love to know, is if you're working on professional development, let's call it that, because most people probably relate to that word. Are you working more on skill sets, right? So I'm getting all these certifications, I'm learning how to actually do something, but I never work on the inside of how I think and approach things. Does it look like this in your professional development? What we want to start doing is balancing the scale so you actually are balanced from inside and outside. And that is personal development. And this is where the magic happens. This is the sweet sauce. So imagine a world where, if we're talking about leading employees and contractors, and you really want to be smart about it and be more proactive versus reactive, always hire people that want to learn and improve themselves. And then you can start creating systems within and things that they do on their own, but it's an expectation of what you need from them. You are looking for those type of people. You are so much better off if somebody is wanting to improve themselves. And it needs to be where, as a leader, and this is where we can jump into like, well, what do we do with the people that we already have, right? Because contractors, you could just set that expectation before they walk in the door. Easier, right? Why have to worry about improving the way that their mindsets are and getting them to want to be a learner and have growth mindset? Why don't you just hire those type of people? Makes your life easier. So let's talk about the employee part. Well, what do we do with the people that we already have that may or may not have that? They're a lot more fixed. Well, that is where, let's think smart about this. If you hire the contractors, if you have a hybrid solution, or if you don't, who are the best people to really come up with good strategies around to help that?
Well, and you will always have a balance of different styles in an organization. And even for contractors, even if you set the expectation from the beginning, you will see them feeling in that expectation differently. Because if we talk about, again, personal and professional development, they go together hand in hand. There's no other way. Learning is not an event that you go to. It's a habit that you have, or it's a habit that you create. So those are two super important things. Now, in an organization, if you are a learning organization, if that's your culture, because again, we go back to what the culture in that organization is, then if you're a learning organization, all you need to do is create the habit of learning and cater to the different learning styles and working styles that people have. And that's where you have learning specialists, designers, development specialists, and all of that, so that they can come up with the framework to help people create the habit of learning. So that you don't expect that they're sent to a training session and then that's it.
And it also needs to be, and this is why I always say, where life coaching is extremely important. So you could get someone that is in learning development, all they're going to do is teach the outside skills. I'm going to tell you right now, what's that going to get you when all the skill sets in the world, if the person is messed up in the head, how's that going to work? So I'm going to give you one example and share an experience.
Okay.
So I wanted to be able to think on my feet quickly, because I had an anxiety issue. That is, I had limiting beliefs. I had stories that were going on in my head. I spent thousands of dollars, went to the Think on Feet program, if any of you I know. And look, I even have the little cube that sits here. This is skills, okay? All skills on the outside. So I flew to Dallas, went to this workshop. I actually started getting anxiety in the workshop. So a lot of it was having a hard time doing it because the anxiety kicked in. Now, they didn't do anything to help me with my anxiety. It was all mindset issues here that was happening. So I left, and I have all these skill sets, and I can learn how to do this. I didn't forget them. But the problem is how I apply them and approach them was shit. Because I had to remove what was holding me back in those beliefs, those stories in my head that was creating anxiety. So what did I do? I go into, NLP, getting coached and life coached to help remove those. It was a mindset issue. So this is where it's so important to combine both of those.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I used to be learning and development. And I know it also depends, first of all, your mindset as a learning and development professional, that matters a lot. Because, and I've designed training sessions and programs and everything. And I just knew that they have to be combined. Training and coaching, they have to be combined, because it's one thing. Training doesn't mean that you're going to know the hows. You're going to find out the what's. In a training session, you find out what's possible, what's a different angle that you can approach the situation from, new things about new ways of doing things. But that doesn't mean that you're going to know and learn and master the how to apply it on your job, in your life. You don't have the time, because that's a process that takes time. You can't expect to have like everything built in 3 days of a training session, and now it's online. It's 4 hours of a training session, and then you will know how to listen better. No, you need coaching with that. You need to be able to embed it in your work so that you actually master that skill.
And that's why we call programs. Because here's another example. I'm just on a roll. I am tenacious today, and I can't help it. So here's the thing. Because me being an agile coach, we're all about trying to create growth mindset. Now, again, I went through my personal development. Was I the best through my whole career? Hell no. But here's what I'm realizing. And some people get there sooner, but I started out as a science teacher. I got into in agile coaching in brain science, of where teaching from the back of the room. I took that class, and we learned how to design teaching around brain science. But here's the thing, exactly your point, Roxana. And this is why I'm just being very spicy today about this, because I want this to hit home with people. I want them to leave this show today and start thinking about stuff. Okay, you designed the greatest workshop, 2 days, 1 day, whatever. You're using brain science, right? Like I have my book, Teaching from the Back of the Room. You can pull that out, right? You learn how to, the 4 C's and, create connections and all these things. But if the person is still here, not whole, this is where that coaching program kicks in. So what if we start, once you learn something, you continue that program to help them through how they're approaching and applying it. We don't tend to do that. There's so many training things out there. And that's why I made this point. Imagine if coaching a program, say, I went to this Think on Your Feet, but the program was a 3-month program. We learned the skill set of this, but we also worked on change work to help us make sure that we're learning how to apply this effectively, and what's holding us back, what's our limiting beliefs to do this well. Great, I learned this skill, but how if my mind is messed up?
And you haven't even learned the skill. You learned about the skill, but you haven't. That's the difference from learning between learning about something and learning how to do it and mastering that thing. That's a whole new thing. Then it's a whole process that you have to go through. There's no quick fix. That's what I'm trying to say. And this is why. So even now, all of my workshops, for all of them, I have coaching following up with that same group, because that's where the learning actually begins. The learning, the actual learning, the practical learning starts after the training session, when people actually start to work on that and apply it. And then they have challenges, and then they don't know how. And then they can discuss in a coaching session the how and the blockages and the why didn't it work? What else can I try? What am I not looking at? And all of that thing, and understand more about themselves. And that's where I always say, if you want to start anywhere, start with emotional intelligence, because that starts with you, and you start to understand how you can manage yourself, how you work, and where you need to start. But like, if we go back to how you can lead employees and contractors, and how you can create this environment of continuous learning and developing for your people, because you want them, that's our nature. Our nature is to grow and develop. So that, just creating that environment where you offer training, you offer coaching, where they can ask and you ask them, what are you doing? What are you doing to share with other people about stuff that you've learned? I remember when I was heading the L&D department, I had this weekly sessions with people where we would go and watch together a TED talk and do breathing exercises and power poses and reading exercises and all sorts of things. And we would share something that was inspiring us, a book that we were reading, or a movie that we watched and that was absolutely inspiring, and all of that stuff that nourishes the soul.
And
that
I
is
love where you're going with this,
irreplaceable.
because you and I design our programs the same way, where we're teaching and we're coaching, but there's a lot of group coaching in there. And the reason why is because what you just said is the shares, and there's a lot of magic in that. So let's tie this back into how to effectively lead employees and contractors. So the things that we're actually talking about is not just for people like myself and Roxana. These are things that every people leader out there, this is the new people leader. I'm going to say that. This is the new way to lead people, where you learn how to be a teacher, mentor, and coach to your people. And so that is what's going to help you learn. So all the things that I've done in Agile coaching, it's almost, we have to bring it forward to help these people leaders be able to do that, and anyone else learning how to do this as well, because the peer sharing, the peer helping, they become teachers, mentors, and coaches as well. So just imagine if we keep paying that forward, this thinking and skill set all the way around, and it continuously organically grows throughout your organization. So when we get back to leading employees, there's a lot of different approaches that you can take, and this is where you have to find your own unique style. I don't believe there's just one way, but we all have one thing in common, and that is what we're all talking about right now is the ability to learn and want to learn, and knowing that everyone is at cause for their own personal development. Now, as a leader, if you have employees, you have some tough things on your plate. And here's why I say this. If you're really trying to create the future of your organization to be able to go through what we just went through in 2020, we have to get real with the people that we lead and come to the table. And this is where we start to speak truth, right? Are you in it to win it? Conversations with the people they lead. Are they wanting to grow and learn and improve themselves or not? And I'm going to say this, and people probably don't want to hear this. If they are not, it's almost like a baseball game. 3 strikes, you're out. Because if you're really thinking about your return on investment in your company, if they're not willing, I bet you there's so many people out there looking for jobs today that are. Don't waste your time. One day these people will come around, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but you're running a business. You're running a business. There are so many people lined up looking for work today that would love to take that person's place. Always remember that.
And there's another thing. So if you don't, so one thing is feedback. You need a good feedback system in place, regular, not performance reviews. We're not talking about that. We're talking about regular feedback in place. And there you want to have regular feedback. I'm sure you can come up with a system to support that. There's no excuse, right?
Yeah,
That's one. I mean, come on.
You don't go through a like, who's going to make the cut and you nix people. I mean, you try to work with them, but at the end of the day, it's like me as a coach. I will have to part ways with someone that I'm coaching if they're not willing to go through the process. Right? Because nothing's ever going to happen. That's my point. It's a lost cause until they can change the way. But here's the thing, and this is the beauty of it. We all know this when it comes to accountability. When people start doing that and getting real and stop turning and looking the other way, look how quickly that person will change. Because if they can't find a job or if they can't keep a job because they're so fixed in their head, they might start thinking about changing the way they are thinking about things and want to learn. Sometimes you almost got to like force it a little bit. Where, what does it call that? Tough love? And it's so cruel. But those of you that care about keeping your jobs, I'm being authentically honest and loving when I say this. Start thinking about improving yourself. Make it your habit and make it your business, because that is going to give you job security. All the experience in the world, there's a reason why if you're going to interviews and you're not getting a job, they might be seeing your inability to be open to learning and growing, because they look for that these days. Yeah. I had a recruiter at one of the companies that I was talking to. My friend's a VP of HR. Mm-hmm. And she was telling me that they are okay if somebody doesn't have all the skill sets and experience that they need. They would rather teach that and have somebody that has the capacity to grow and learn, because they can solve that problem faster than trying to fix somebody's mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think about that, folks.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm just trying to get honest.
No, but I think, deep down somewhere, we all know that. It's just that sometimes it's so comfortable and warm and cushy and nice that, you think like, okay, I'll start tomorrow. Or again, it's that mindset where we look at developing ourselves as something that somebody needs to send us to, or we need to go to, rather than just us building that particular habit.
It's like oh, I know that. To develop. It's like, oh, they're looking at the checklist on my performance review to see what I've done to improve myself, versus it being that you actually genuinely care. Times are changing, folks. It's 2021, and what actually happened in the past, this is the time where history's changing. That's old passe. Companies are getting smarter now, saying, why are we hiring those kind of people when they're the ones that aren't going to get us moving forward for the future? They're not the ones that are going to be resilient and be able to, when we got big, massive issues like this pandemic that happened, that's going to get us out of it.
Mm-hmm. Also,
folks.
I think, so that's one thing. One thing is you have to be, as an individual, take responsibility for yourself. Don't expect anyone else to deal with your own development and growth. That's one thing. And as a company, you're looking for people who have this growth mindset and who want to learn and who can really be game-changing for you as a company. You'd better adapt and build that environment where they can continue that with your organization, because that's another thing. If we stay stuck in that culture of blame and of people being afraid to even open their mouth and ask a question and have an opinion and really ask the whys, why are we doing that this way? Like, no, if you want talent and you want people who have this growth mindset, then you as an organization need to make sure that you have the right environment for them so that they stay, because otherwise
Well,
you
yeah,
lose
because
them,
I would never work for a company that isn't going to want to listen to my ideas. I'm okay if they say, Veronica, that's a crazy idea, but I at least want to be heard, because I would love for them to challenge me, because it's going to grow. I'm going to see it as an opportunity of what I took away, learning how they asked. I don't find it as an insult. I actually go, oh, maybe I need to start thinking through this particular idea this way, or maybe I didn't effectively communicate. Can you help me? Right? Like, as a leader, getting back to all what we're talking about is helping people be better learners, be better problem solvers.
Yeah.
Really, all about this is going to make you, one, shine. So if I'm a leader, and right now, I think a lot of eyes are on leaders today, and at all levels. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about this now? Right? I think it's a huge thing this year, is we have to start rethinking our approaches.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling rethinking about your approach, then it's probably a good idea for you to get coached. Because we are at a point now where we have to creatively think of how to get people moving along in this direction of all the things that Roxana and I are talking about today. And it's a lot easier when we're talking about contractors, because you can be very selective of choosing those types of people. What becomes harder if you're a leader that already inherited a group of people, what do you do about that? And that now is a great time to start reframing how you're thinking about that problem. Because if you're thinking very linear about it, that may get you subpar results, is what I'm trying to say.
And I love that, because I think if you inherited a team, okay, that's a little bit tougher, because hey, you didn't choose them. You didn't have them aligned to maybe your new focus, your new goals, your way of doing things.
And there's
right?
a lot of organizations shifting and reorging. So
yeah,
I can't reorgan. And they inherited these people. It's like, I didn't interview them. I didn't select them.
But that's where
I didn't choose my family.
I didn't choose my family, but you let your family members know what you like and what you don't like about what they do, right? It's like, it's easy with family. Like, we kind of give feedback more to the family members, right? So use the power of feedback, and also coaching and mentoring. For you as a leader, you have to be able to coach and mentor other people. And absolutely, if you as a leader of that team, you have a coach that actually helps you uncover and rediscover some of the stuff, that's even better, because that's when you understand how you can coach your team. Because we're not just talking about making decisions on the spot here. We're also talking about with the team, right? We're also talking about moving forward with that team long term. So for long term, that's when coaching and mentoring skills for you as a leader will come in. And I think for me, I think all leaders should have
and here's the thing.
Skills.
It's I'm gonna say, like, around the word try, because the last thing we want to do is not try to help people along, right? We are human. And the first thing is, you can start with yourself, trying to figure out how to be better at doing this. But sometimes we're challenged and it's just not our thing. And this is why I always say that life coaching, every organization should have it, even if it's somebody that is a contractor, or you bring someone permanently in-house, because it's almost like phase one of attack, right, is probably the leader themselves. Phase two is probably someone internally, maybe in the learning development, there's coaches there or what might have you, that you can actually say, okay, I'm going to ask you to work with this person. right? And 3 is it might be looking outward, right? Not within your company with this employee. If you really truly want to work on your employees, this is why I'm saying this. But again, this is my 3 strikes. After a certain point, you got to cut your losses. You are running a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will definitely help you make better business decisions because you will have all the information that you need. You're going to have a solid base as opposed to well, I don't really like the way that that person works, but then I never gave them feedback. I never asked them to develop anything. We never had an honest conversation about where things go and how things should be. And then I'm frustrated with what they do, but at the same time they have no idea that I'm frustrated, and they're
And this goes back to people strategies, right? So
Exactly.
when I said all this, you might have a different approach than what I just said about a strike 3, right? Like I said, there's no one way, but what does that look like? And this is what I'm challenging. What does it look like? We know what our end state is, how we want our culture of people to be, right? We have this dream. What happens when we identify someone there's a big gap? How do we close that gap with the people? What is our approach to the point where we have to make a decision? Are we wasting our time with this individual? And that's what I mean by that. There has to be a point where when you're running a business, right? That's like me. I'm working with a contractor on my home and I'm not getting the results I need. Do I continue with that contractor and constantly work with them? Right? As I'm spending money on them.
Mhm.
Remember, employees cost money. And or do I cut my losses and go somewhere else? What makes this any different when it comes to running a business and your employees?
Mhm.
So this is where if you don't have a strategy in place of how to approach this is a good time to start thinking about that today.
Exactly. And one other thing is you need people to know what you're measuring them on. I mean, again, that has to be aligned because otherwise, and I'll give you an example. You can't have a manager, so there or leader, right? And it's somebody that is bringing money in the organization, right? And that's the measure. That's what you hired them for, and that's what you want them to do. You want them to bring money in the organization, no matter what they do, right? Okay, so they bring a lot of contracts, they bring a lot of clients, and they're very good with that. And then you're not happy with them because they don't have the people skills, because they don't work with their team properly, because they're not a good leader. But then again, they had when
it was
you
a one-sided,
hired them,
or actually I'll say it was a short-sighted expectation. So again,
exactly.
here's my
Align them.
here's my scale. Is it imbalanced? So what we want to do is look at multifaceted expectation.
Exactly.
Because that's the only way. And I was talking to a CEO of a company where one of the feedbacks was career growth. Well, that's great that someone wants career growth, but what's the expectation to grow in our company, right? That company.
Yeah.
I would hope, that personal development is in that. So great. You want to make more money, you want to do, but what are you doing to improve yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be, again, inside and outside skill sets of improving. Yep. Then you start tying it into your business outcomes, right? Because it's always what I call the intangibles and the tangibles. So tangibles, it's a lot easier for us to think about. And then the intangibles, that's where HR and all the different, groups of people are really good at helping. How do you measure the intangibles? Mm-hmm. But intangibles do have value. And you start seeing what these intangibles do. Like, remember when I was talking about the mindset thing? How effectively I get my return on investment by applying this particular skill is how I think about things.
Mhm.
So there are so many brilliant people out there today that know how to measure these things, is my point. So you can get there, but it needs to include both. It really does. And I love how you brought up measurements, because the business people are always wanting, well, okay, well, how do I know that I have my return on investment? What you're talking about, it sounds all fluffy. Well, no. You can always measure everything, even the
Oh yeah,
intangibles. Because what
absolutely.
you typically do is you turn an intangible into a tangible.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say. That intangible is going to become tangible. So, giving an example of a leader who's bad with people, people in your organization that work with that particular leader, they're going to start moving out. They're going to start leaving your organization. So, you're going to start losing talent immediately. One. And two, that goes for your reputation as well. So great talent that's out there, they're not going to want to join because they know there's this leader in your organization that they don't want to work with or
Yeah,
lead.
I can
Right?
tell you, I've been asking this question out there to a lot of people, like, why did you leave your job? Why are you interested? And a lot of times, people are thinking out there today is security and what might have you, but isn't it the best time to look for a job is when you have a job?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if I'm not happy in my job, I'm going to be looking for a job. And if I have marketable skill sets and experience, and I get really good at being able to build my personal brand and get that job, those people are the ones that are going to be first to leave, because here's what they're looking for. They're looking for more autonomy.
Mhm.
We're looking for the ability to have more flexible time to spend with their family, because they're realizing after working from home, they want more flexibility, either within their hours or to work remotely, or just to have the choice of their time. A lot of people are realizing time is an asset.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The
Yeah.
second thing is purpose, right? We hear about it. Simon Sinek, he has that. The thing you shared with me is, I want to do something that's more fulfilling. Like, I don't want to just go every day and just work and then go home. Some people are like, you know what? There's more to it than life than collecting a paycheck. I want to have more passion in what I do. I've actually talked to several people when I was thinking going down and helping with the career path. There's a lot of people looking out there. I see it in LinkedIn Profile Finder all the time. So these people, if you have a job, it's so much easier to go find a job. I made a career of it. Most of the time when I looked for a job, I didn't quit my job first. I was like, hell no. I'm going to go find the job that I want. And then they start coming up with their criteria of what that job looks like. So here's my point. If your company is not thinking about these benefits and offerings for these employees, hell yeah, why wouldn't they leave?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go to those other companies.
And then again, it's like, what do you want? Where do you want to go as an organization and as a company? Do you want people to want to work for you and then just come and come to you, come towards you because they know it's a good culture, it's a good environment, it's a great company to work for? Or do you want to just keep one or two people who bring them money but who don't necessarily care about their skills or their people skills and about developing themselves and developing others? Because that's what happens when you care about your own personal development. You will care about developing others as well.
And those are the people that will
Win.
find a job easily
Exactly.
because they're attractive.
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies are realizing what I just said. Oh, I need those kind of employees. So those are the people that don't have a hard time finding a job. It's the question of when.
It's a question of when, and it's a question for companies. Are we able to keep them, and are we able to really create that environment where they feel fulfilled? And because when we talk about motivation and engagement, we talk about people finding purpose in whatever it is that they do. So,
and there's people that are
that.
And there's people that are contractors for a reason. I became an independent consultant and contractor because I wanted freedom of choice. I wanted to get away from the politics of a company, and I wanted to have that ability to move on, and I didn't have to worry about my resume. So, you know, that question, which is so funny because I seen on the LinkedIn thread about, you know, these gaps in people's employment. Well, I don't really think it's a big deal anymore, because if I saved enough money and took 3 months off to get my shit together, what's the big deal? And a lot of us, you know, when it comes to contracting, we're like, that's an easy thing to solve. I'm contracting. So they don't ask that question anymore.
Yeah.
So any of you that are actually looking for another job, hit me up and talk to me, because I am one of those people. Either the companies get their shit together and I help them, or I help the employees get out of that situation. I am hell bent about this, because the only way we're going to change the paradigm is if those talent, the people they really want to keep, leave.
That's exactly. And then reframing what you're offering and what you see, because again, what you see as benefits as a company right now, it's not going to necessarily be perceived as a benefit in, I don't know, 6 months, because it's going to be just the
you have
way
to evolve and
people
grow.
work.
I mean, it's all about the feedback loop. And
So exactly. So adapt, take feedback and do something with it. Because like, if you are just taking feedback but you don't do anything about it, why are you having the feedback for? Like, you have to do something with it. That's the power of feedback.
And I don't mean to sound like a jerk and the things I'm saying, but there's a saying about stacking the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these big, large organizations, or it could even be small, that in order for them to really, truly change their ways, they got to feel the pain. It's the only way. And that's why I'm saying that. And we know when people choose to change is because the pain gets so bad that they have to do something about it. That's the only reason why I'm getting saucy about this subject, because I want them to change.
Yeah. But then, and that's the thing, what do you do when it's painful? Do you just put a Band-Aid on it? Or do you really go to the root cause and see what's giving me this pain and what can I do to not have this pain long term? Because I can put a Band-Aid, but the pain comes back the next week, or I run out of Band-Aid. And what do I do then?
I know we're wrapping this up, and so we went like a spider web and a lot of things, but every single topic that we talked about today goes back to how to effectively lead employees and contractors, because it only takes one person. It only takes one person to start making a difference. Yeah. When you are responsible for other people, what are you going to do with that responsibility? You have so much ability to make that change right there. Mm-hmm. You don't need to wait for your entire company to change.
Yeah, exactly. And I put here, because we talked about these a lot in this episode. So definitely feedback, coaching, mentoring, growth mindset. This is what you as a leader need to be focused on. If you want people who are really motivated and engaged, you have to do something with these tools. These are going to be keywords, I think.
Yeah. It's like, I love watching and reading the LinkedIn threads where people are really honest and raw. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, because if I'm polished and that all business perfect and I'm not getting real about these topics, I don't necessarily think that message is coming home clear. Yeah. And when you read those of you that are on LinkedIn, it's pretty powerful when someone's really speaking their own rawness and truth. And this is what, the show is about, is getting raw and truth about these subjects, because we want people to challenge the way they think and approach things. Mm-hmm. That is the whole point. That's what game-changing work is all about.
Exactly. Okay, so talking about game-changing work and wrapping up, what do you have, Veronica, that you want to leave?
So I'm cooking up some stuff. So those of you know that I've kind of almost took a little hiatus as I left Agile Coaching to kind of really rethink what Veronica is going to end up doing. So for me, it is really all about that mindset and success coaching, but really helping individuals and teams solve better problems. And it starts with the way that you think about things. So what I've done is marry a couple frameworks of reframing, but also the mindset, because I'm challenging, are you working on the right problems? Are you being very linear thinking about what you do? So the upcoming webinar that I'm getting together, I was a little behind today, but connect with me on LinkedIn, direct message me, get a hold of me if you're interested and being notified. And so I will let you know when that upcoming webinar, I'm planning on posting it next week. So the best way for you to get the latest is to get on the LinkedIn platform, connect with me, direct message me and say, hey, V, I'm interested in your webinar. And the webinar is going to be talking about reframing problems in connection of how we think about things. And that's where the mindset will come in. So that's as much as I can tell you right now. But it's going to be really great. It's taking skills and also the intangible aspects of it.
And as we said, I mean, sometimes it's painful and we feel that it's painful, but we don't know why. And I love what you do about finding the problem, finding the cause. What's causing that pain? What's the problem? Or, you know, helping people understand if the problem is what they think it is, or is there anything different? I love the way that you reframe it as a rethinking and looking at it from all of those perspectives.
It's like, even though we don't like to say think out of the box, reframing is stepping outside of that frame, because that's what actually makes an impact and changes the world. Innovation doesn't happen within the frame.
Exactly.
You can build a software for an existing problem and be very linear thinking about it, or you think outside of, and those are the things like Uber and all these other things that come about. You can take that same approach in your personal life and in business. So this is why I like to work with individuals and teams, because it's really based on that particular situation. So this is Veronica 2.0, going from agile coach to mindset and success coach, helping people get better problems for game-changing solutions.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah, that's totally what, especially now, there's a lot of need for that. I know.
It's the highest skill set that companies are looking for, is great problem solvers. So what I'm jumping into is something that in the program that I'm creating, imagine if you get the skill set, you go through this program and you really work through that. So good things are coming is what I'm saying. And if you connect with me on LinkedIn and the platform, you'll know that's all I'm going to talk about.
All right. Okay. So for me, you know what I'll say, join the Lead for Legacy League. We started this Monday, actually. We had a kickoff call the previous Monday, and this Monday we discussed a lot about, we did a training session and we did some power poses and what they do for the mindset as well. And then we discussed,
I love it. I learned that like my NLP is just changing your thing, not to interrupt you. Sorry. I got like shiny object. Like, I feel like so much better. When you said that, I just like repositioned myself.
I mean, exactly. The difference from this to this, that's huge. That's one. And then we discussed about working styles, about the GC index, and because there are people who have different kinds of profiles. I have strategists and playmakers. I have strategists and implementers, game changers and strategists. So it's an interesting mix. And then it's interesting that we discussed feedback, because a lot of them asked, okay, so how do I request feedback from my direct manager? How do I, because I need it. And they don't seem to need to give me feedback. And another thing is, how do I ask my team for feedback and for contributions when I see that they might do it, but they might do it only like 50%, 60%. Otherwise, they kind of roll their eyes, and I don't know how to deal with that. So that's the power of the league. I mean, we're talking real stuff there, challenges and issues that managers have and that people have when they work on a team. And we discuss that. So on Monday, we're going to discuss how we can give feedback so that we actually nourish the relationship and help it grow, because that's going to help us grow, for, of course, with the goal and the business goal in mind. But we have to be able to work together well so that we get those business results. So that's one thing.
And I love it,
and
because
questions.
They're going to come up with a lot of challenges that they have to turn into opportunities. Yeah. So like, as you're talking, the one thing that I observed a lot as an Agile coach is that leaders, if they're so busy, they become disconnected. That the reason why they can't give feedback sometimes is because they don't know what to give you feedback on, because they're so busy and disconnected. They don't know what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Exactly.
So they don't want to admit to it, because that's the real problem.
Yeah. But then what do you do when you have people who need feedback? Again, you want people with a growth mindset. You want people who want to develop themselves. But how do you do that? How do you manage your own relationship with them? If you're not going to give them feedback, how are they going to grow? You want them to grow, but then you're not helping them.
I can never give feedback on someone I don't know, and if I'm not staying connected with them. So that's a great conversation to have with people.
Exactly.
I mean, I literally had to be the person forcing syncs with people, because if I didn't do it, they would have no way to be connected with me so we can even have a conversation. How can I even ask that feedback question in truth when they had no idea what the hell I was doing?
Right? But then have an honest conversation and see, this is what I need. How do we make that happen? Is that possible? So we're having all of these conversations as part of the league.
It's like, that's going to be. You almost have to have the conversation is, well, how do I get you to know what I'm doing? Maybe we just need to get exactly that.
Yeah. or hear me out. This is what I'm doing. These are the results, and this is what I need.
Well, that's so good. And all of you, as I'm like, see how I'm getting into this, because I've been on the outside looking in for over 10 years in Agile coaching. And I've been in transformations probably about like 7 years in all these different companies. It was a recurring theme when I saw the disconnect with leaders that were too busy and they didn't want to admit they couldn't give feedback, because they didn't know what to give feedback on, because they were so disconnected. And then I could see the difference between the connected ones. Now, there's a difference between micromanaging and managing. And so these are great topics that if you are experiencing all these different things that we're mentioning today, go over to the Lead for Legacy League, because Lead for Legacy League, I always say that like, blah, blah, blah,
I know, it's a tongue twister.
That this is going to help you work through it. And it's not, you're not having to do it alone. Yeah, here's the beauty of it. You're learning, you are getting group coaching, and you're also being around other people going through the same things, and they might come up with different approaches and thoughts and thinking about it. So it's a very multifaceted program. And this is what people need right now. Joining a Facebook group, going to a conference, doing all of these things where it's very disconnected, it's centralizing all of these things into one space.
Exactly.
So that's what I want people to think about.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they are learning from each other and sharing a lot. So come join. You can join anytime.
We're going to have to get them to talk about their testimonials and stuff like that. I think it's people to see that.
But I'm waiting to get there and for them to get some more experience with it. And then for sure, I'll let you know. But again, you can join at any time. and it's a monthly membership, so you can join anytime and have those conversations, come up with your challenges, your own situations. We discuss them. I'm planning to have guest speakers for inspiration and for fresh ideas. So come join us.
Ooh, see, that's what I'm saying. It's like a one-stop shop. All right, I know that we are over.
All right.
but,
Okay, so
what's our topic for
next week, what does rapport have to do with your success? I love it. I can't wait.
Oh my. This one when it comes to human behavior, I think I'm becoming obsessed with it these days. And this is going to be a lot of fun because rapport is huge. And it's something that I'm having fun at the same time while I'm learning more about what this means. And so it is a constant growth. You don't just learn it one and done and you become this master, because we're human beings. And this is where we're like, are we going to have a guest?
We'll see. I'm not sure yet. We need to clarify some things.
Okay, so
that's going to be good. Yeah, it's going to be a surprise for us too. So we have to find out. Okay. So
come next week. Check it out. This report is going to it goes into both what Roxana and I do in our programs and coaching and teaching, because this is an essential skill set to have.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll leave you with that. See you next Wednesday and have a great rest of your week.
I know. Woohoo!